Hello and welcome back to Whiskey Wars. Tonight we'll be reviewing this bottle of Buffalo Trace. Let's do it. So Buffalo Trace is a unique distillery. It has the distinction of being the only distillery to continuously make bourbon, even through Prohibition, for over 200 years in the same location. That's right, they're still using some of the same equipment that they started with way back when. Now because of that, in 2013, Buffalo Trace was named a National Historic Landmark. So that is a distinction that only Buffalo Trace can claim. Now the Buffalo Trace name comes from buffalo traces or paths where the American bison would cross the U.S. continent every year. One such path ran across the Kentucky River. It's at this site where the Lee brothers would set up their distillery that is still standing today, and that is known as Buffalo Trace. In the late 18th century, Commodore Richard Taylor would build a home on the property that the distillery is on, and then shortly after that, he would have storehouses, or rickhouses as we know them today, built where they would begin storing the bourbon barrels, and that is really how the history of bourbon really began. Now later, Colonel E.H. Taylor Jr., the great-grandson of the Commodore, would take over the distillery, and he would really be quite a Renaissance man and really be the founder of the bourbon industry. He also was quite an innovator, and in fact instituted many laws and instructions and techniques that we still use in the bourbon industry today, all because of Colonel E.H. Taylor. After that time, George T. Stagg and Colonel Albert Blanton would take over running the company, and they would run it before and after Prohibition, and even through Prohibition, because the Buffalo Trace Distillery was granted one of only 6 permits in Kentucky to continue distilling whiskey even through Prohibition, for medicinal purposes, of course. Then in 1949, Albert Blanton would hire a young Kentuckian named Elmer T. Lee, and Elmer T. Lee would go on to become the master distiller at Buffalo Trace. And of course, Elmer T. Lee is the man responsible for the first single barrel bourbon that we all know as Blanton's, which is wildly popular. And then also he is responsible for the bottle in his own namesake, Elmer T. Lee, which is also highly sought after. But the bottle we're looking at today, Buffalo Trace, was actually the product of the later master distiller, Harlan Wheatley, as well as other members of the company at that time. So let's get into this bottle and see what it's all about. And look, here's my whiskey. All right, now that my whiskey has shown up, let's go ahead and nose and taste it. Give it a little spin to get it up on the walls there so we can smell it better. And of course, you are getting very classic bourbon nosing notes, such as caramel, brown sugar, obviously. But then something that's kind of unique to Buffalo Trace to me is the kind of green apple or sour apple note that you get. I find that in quite a few Buffalo Trace products, and you definitely find it here. And also you're getting kind of also some citrus. I would say like a lemon zest, and then definitely like a powdered sugar, almost like if you were smelling like the top of a funnel cake, because you also are kind of getting that sweet bready note. And then too, I would almost say like maybe like a cranberry in there as well. And then of course you're getting your oak and a very light note of the charred barrel. But all in all, a very nice nose. I can say, you know, I've had Buffalo Trace many times before this, and it's always had one of my favorite noses. But now, let's get into the true test, and that is, of course, the taste. So let's see what it tastes like. All right, so just as I remember, you're definitely getting that kind of sweet, candied apple on the palate. It's not so much the sour apple that the nose gives you. It's more like a caramel apple that you would get at the fair. It's very nice and pleasant. And also you're getting those brown sugars. It's almost like if you'd taken that caramel apple and then covered it in powdered sugar. That's very much what the palate is like to me. But then imagine off in the distance at the same fair, there's somebody doing barbecue. So that kind of smell is also influencing your palate. So you're kind of getting that char and kind of caramelized meat. Not the flavors of that, but just imagine those kind of char notes mixing in there as well. All right, that time I got a lot more citrus, almost like a candied orange. Like if you dried out oranges and then coated those in sugar. Something like that on top of the other flavors I already have described. All in all, a very nice palate. Let's give it one more sip here and see if we can get anything else out of this glass. Now on that one, I also got kind of like a dark cherry note as well. Mainly on kind of the back of the palate heading towards the finish. And then on the finish, you get a little bit of kind of like a cinnamon spice, and you're getting the oak notes showing through. And maybe just hints of char, but they're very light. I would say the barrel char shows up a little more on the palate than it does the finish to me. And maybe you're also getting some peppery notes, but I would say it's more of a white pepper than a black pepper because it's very light. All in all, it's just a very nice sipping whiskey. I can see why so many people go crazy for it. I always keep it stocked because it's usually one of my go-tos. I sip on through the week. Just a very pleasant, nice sipping experience. So if you're one of those people that have not tried this yet, I definitely suggest it. I would definitely put it up there in the your top 5 or 10 kind of budget-ish whiskeys. Definitely go pick one up and let me know your thoughts as always. Leave your comments down there and let me know what you think about it. Maybe you're getting different tasting notes, and I'd like to hear those as well. And then also, folks, if you like the video, please feel free to give me a like. And if you really liked it, then subscribe for more stuff just like this. And as always, folks, just remember, you can never have too much good whiskey.